I knocked on the door hard. My knuckles hurt, but not as bad as my heart. "Get out, and don't come back until you're somebody." Mom's words from last night still rang in my ears. Nobody answered. I knocked again, harder this time. "Noah, please be home," I whispered, fighting back tears. My backpack felt heavy on my shoulders. Everything I owned was crammed inside clothes, my science notebook, and $300 Mom had thrown at me before slamming the door. $300, like that was enough to start a life. The door swung open, and Noah stood there in his pajama pants, hair sticking up like he'd been struck by lightning. "Lena," his eyes went wide. "What happened to you?" I tried to answer, but my voice broke. Tears spilled down my cheeks instead. "She kicked me out," I finally managed. "My own mom kicked me out." Noah pulled me inside quickly. The warm air of his house hit my cold cheeks. I'd been wandering around all night, scared and alone, before ending up at the 24-hour diner until morning. "Who is it, honey?" Noah's mom called from the kitchen. The smell of pancakes made my stomach growl. I couldn't remember the last time I ate. "It's Lena, Mom," Noah called back, his voice urgent. "She needs help." His parents came into the hallway together, coffee mugs in hand. They looked at my red eyes and dirty clothes. "What happened, dear?" Mrs. Wilson asked, her forehead wrinkling with worry. "My mom," I started, then had to take a deep breath. "We got in a huge fight. She told me to leave and not come back until I'm somebody." I made air quotes with my fingers, but they were shaking so bad I'm not sure it worked. "What does that even mean?" Noah asked, his face turning red with anger. I shrugged. "She thinks science is a waste of time. Says I'll never make anything of myself if I keep playing with experiments, instead of focusing on something practical." Mr. Wilson exchanged a look with his wife. "Where did you sleep last night?" I stared at my shoes. "Nowhere. I just walked around, then sat at Denny's until they started giving me dirty looks." "Oh, honey," Mrs. Wilson said, putting her mug down. "You can stay here for a little while. We have the guest room." Relief washed over me so strong I almost collapsed. "Really? You do that for me?" "Of course," Noah said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "You're my best friend." "Thank you," I whispered, my voice catching. "I promise it won't be for long, just until I figure things out." But what things, and how? The questions swirled in my head like a tornado. I had no idea what to do next, where to go, how to become this somebody my mom wanted. Noah's mom led me upstairs to a small room with blue walls and a neatly made bed. "Get some sleep," she said softly. "Things will look better when you're rested." I nodded, but I didn't believe her. How could things look better? My own mother had thrown me away like garbage. As soon as the door closed, I collapsed onto the bed and finally let myself cry for real big, ugly sobs that shook my whole body. I buried my face in the pillow so Noah's family wouldn't hear. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Dad. I'd called him last night, but he was in Canada for work, too far away to help. "Did you find somewhere to stay?" his text read. "At Noah's," I texted back. "His parents said I can stay a while." "Good, sending money when I get paid next week. Your mom will come around." I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Mom wouldn't come around. She never did. Dad didn't understand because he wasn't here. He never was. I must have fallen asleep, because when I opened my eyes again, the light outside had changed. Someone had thrown a blanket over me. My phone said it was 3:45 p.m. I sat up, feeling groggy and gross. My mouth tasted terrible. I needed a shower and a toothbrush. There was a soft knock at the door. "Lena, you awake?" Noah called. "Yeah," I croaked. My throat felt raw from crying. He opened the door slowly. "Mom made sandwiches if you're hungry." My stomach growled in response. "I'll take that as a yes," he said with a small smile. I followed him downstairs, feeling awkward and out of place. What if his parents had changed their minds? What if they thought I was too much trouble? But Mrs. Wilson just smiled and pushed a plate of sandwiches toward me. "Eat," she said. "Then maybe you'll feel up to telling us what happened." I took a bite, then another. It was the best sandwich I'd ever tasted, or maybe I was just starving. "Mom doesn't get me," I said finally, staring at the crumbs on my plate. "She thinks I'm wasting my life on science, says nobody cares about a girl who spends all her time with beakers and formulas." "That's ridiculous," Noah said. "You're the smartest person I know. Mrs. Harper says you could get a scholarship to any college you want." The mention of my science teacher made my eyes burn with tears again. Mrs. Harper was the only adult who really believed in me. She let me use the lab after school, gave me extra projects, told me I had real potential. "Well, Mom doesn't care about that," I said. "She wants me to be like her, practical, focused on making money. When I told her I wanted to apply for the summer science program at the university, she lost it." "That program's a huge deal," Noah said. "Only the best students get in." I nodded. She said it was a waste of time and money, that I needed to grow up and be realistic. We screamed at each other for hours. Then she told me if I thought I was so smart, I should just leave. Mrs. Wilson made a soft, sad sound. "I'm sure she didn't mean it, honey." "She meant it," I said flatly. "She threw money at me and said, 'Come back when you're somebody.'" Mr. Wilson shook his head. "That's not right. You're welcome here until things calm down." "But not forever," Mrs. Wilson added gently. "You understand that, right? We need to figure out a long-term plan." I nodded again, my chest tight with panic. What was my long-term plan? I had $300, no job, and nowhere to go. "Maybe you could enter that big science competition," Noah suggested suddenly. "The one with the cash prize." I frowned. "What competition?" Noah jumped up and grabbed a flyer from the bulletin board. "This one. Mrs. Harper put it up last week. First prize is $10,000. My heart started beating faster as I read the flyer. Regional Science Innovation Competition. Open to high school students. Deadline in 6 weeks. $10,000 prize plus scholarship opportunity. $10,000 would help a lot, I whispered. "And if you won, your mom would have to admit you were right," Noah added, his blue eyes bright with excitement. For the first time since last night, I felt a tiny spark of hope. I could show her. I could be somebody. "You already are somebody," Noah said fiercely. "You just need to make her see it." I took a deep breath. "Okay, I'll do it, but I need help." "I'm all in," Noah said immediately. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with ideas for the competition. What could I create that would really wow the judges? Something that showed real-world application, not just theory. I thought about all the problems that needed solving: climate change, energy shortages, pollution. The competition theme was innovation for a better tomorrow. Around 2 a.m., it hit me. Solar energy storage. That was something practical even Mom would have to appreciate. If I could design a more efficient way to store solar energy, it would help make renewable energy more viable. I grabbed my science notebook and started scribbling ideas, sketching designs. The panic I'd felt earlier began to transform into determination. "I'll show you, Mom," I whispered into the darkness. "I'll become somebody you can't ignore." But a tiny voice in the back of my mind whispered back, "What if you fail? What if you're really not good enough?" I pushed the thought away and kept working until the sun came up, filling page after page with ideas, the beginning of my plan to prove my worth to the world and to myself. School the next day was weird. I went through my classes like a zombie, my mind still on my project. I needed to talk to Mrs. Harper, needed to use the lab for my experiments, needed to figure out where to get materials. When the final bell rang, I raced to the science wing, praying Mrs. Harper would be there. My heart sank when I saw her classroom door closed, but then I heard movement inside. I knocked tentatively. "Come in," she called. I pushed open the door. Mrs. Harper was at her desk, grading papers. She looked up with a smile that quickly faded when she saw my face. "Lena, what's wrong?" Everything spilled out then, the fight with Mom, getting kicked out, staying at Noah's, my plan to enter the competition. Mrs. Harper listened without interrupting, her kind face getting more serious by the minute. When I finished, She stood up and walked around her desk. "First of all," she said firmly, "you are already somebody extraordinary. Your mother is wrong." Tears pricked at my eyes again. Why couldn't Mom see what Mrs. Harper saw? "Second," she continued, "I think your solar storage idea is brilliant, and I'll help however I can. You can use the lab after school, and I can help you get some of the materials." "Really?" I whispered. "Absolutely. But Lena, have you thought about what happens after the competition, whether you win or lose?" I shook my head. I couldn't think that far ahead. One step at a time was all I could manage. "Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it," she said. "For now, let's focus on creating an amazing project." The next few weeks flew by in a blur of work. Every day after school, Noah and I took over the science lab, testing different materials and designs for my solar storage system. Mrs. Harper stayed late to help us, sacrificing her own time to give me a chance. Some days were amazing, like when our first prototype actually worked, storing enough energy to power a small LED for hours. Other days were terrible, like when our second, improved prototype literally caught fire, nearly setting off the sprinklers. Through it all, I stayed at Noah's. His parents were kind, but I could tell they were getting anxious about how long this arrangement would last. I tried to be the perfect guest, cleaning up after myself, helping with dishes, staying out of the way. At night, I'd lie awake worrying about money. $300 doesn't last long, even when you're not paying rent. I needed new clothes. I needed a toothbrush that wasn't borrowed from Noah's mom. I needed so many things. One evening, about 3 weeks after Mom kicked me out, Mrs. Harper pulled me aside. "I have an idea," she said. "The middle school needs science tutors. It pays $12 an hour and you would be perfect." "But I'm only 16, I said. "Can I even get a job?" "It's through the school district's peer tutor program, so yes. You'd work Tuesdays and Thursdays after school." "But what about the project?" "We'll work around it. You need the money, Lena." She was right. I took the tutoring job, even though it meant less time for my project. Every dollar I earned went into my emergency fund, what I called my survival money. I opened a bank account with Noah's mom's help. Watching the balance grow made me feel a little less scared. As the competition got closer, my prototype got better. We were using a special kind of crystal structure that could store solar energy more efficiently than traditional batteries. The science was solid, but I was worried about the presentation. "No one's going to care if I can't explain why this matters," I told Noah one night as we worked late in the lab. "Then practice explaining it," he said simply. "Tell me why it matters." I took a deep breath. Solar energy is incredible, but it has a huge problem. You only generate power when the sun is shining. If we could store that energy better, more cheaply, more efficiently, then solar becomes viable everywhere. No more excuses not to switch from fossil fuels. "That's good," Noah encouraged. "Keep going." My design uses crystalline structures to trap solar energy at the molecular level. It's like, think of a regular battery as a bucket holding water. Once the bucket's full, that's it. But my system is like having a bucket that can compress the water, packing more and more in without overflowing. "I get it," Noah said. "That's a great way to explain it." We worked for hours, refining both the technology and my explanation of it. By the time we left that night, I felt ready. The day before the competition, I got a message that nearly stopped my heart. "I'll be there tomorrow, Dad." My father was coming, all the way from Canada. I called him immediately. "Dad, are you really coming?" "Of course, sweetheart. I wouldn't miss this for anything." Does Mom know?" I asked, my voice small. There was a pause. "Yes," I told her. "Is she coming too?" Another pause. "I don't know, Lena, I hope so." After we hung up, I sat on the edge of the guest bed, my emotions swirling. Part of me wanted Mom to come, to see what I'd accomplished. Another part was terrified she would show up and still not be impressed. The morning of the competition, I woke up with my stomach in knots. I carefully packed my prototype, triple-checking everything. Noah and his parents drove me to the university where the competition was being held. Mrs. Harper was already there, helping set up. "You ready?" she asked, squeezing my shoulder. "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied. The auditorium was packed with people, other students with their projects, parents, teachers, judges. My eyes scanned the crowd, looking for Dad's familiar face or Mom's dark hair. That's when I saw him, Dad, standing near the back, looking around anxiously. I waved until he spotted me, his face breaking into a huge smile. He pushed through the crowd toward me. "There's my girl," he said, wrapping me in a bear hug. "I'm so proud of you, Lena." "Thanks for coming," I whispered into his shoulder, fighting back tears. Is Mom here?" Dad pulled back slightly, his smile fading. "I don't know, honey, I haven't seen her." My heart sank, but I tried not to show it. "That's okay, I'm just glad you're here." "Me too. Now show me this amazing invention of yours." I set up my display, arranging everything perfectly. My prototype sat in the center, a clear box containing my crystalline storage system, connected to a small solar panel. The judges came around, clipboard in hand. I stood up straight, taking a deep breath. "Hello, I'm Lena Thompson, and this is my enhanced solar storage system." I launched into my explanation, demonstrating how my prototype worked. The judges asked questions, and I answered confidently, drawing on all my research. When they moved on to the next student, Mrs. Harper gave me a thumbs up. "You nailed it," she whispered. We waited for hours while the judges deliberated. Dad sat with me, asking about my life, how I was doing at Noah's, my plans for the future. I could tell he felt guilty about not being there when Mom kicked me out. "I'm sorry, Lena," he said finally. "I should have done more." "It's not your fault," I said. "Mom and we just don't see eye to eye." "Still, I'm your father. I should have protected you better." Before I could respond, the announcer called for everyone's attention. It was time for the results. "In third place," the announcer began, then listed a name I didn't recognize. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it might burst through my chest. "In second place, Jerome Williams from Westlake High School." This was it. Either I won first place or I didn't place at all. And in first place, with an innovative approach to solar energy storage that impressed all our judges, Lena Thompson from East Ridge High School. The room erupted in applause. Noah jumped up, pumping his fist in the air. Mrs. Harper clapped wildly. Dad hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "That's my daughter," he yelled, not caring who heard. In a daze, I walked to the stage to accept my award, a trophy and a check for $10,000. $10,000. It felt like all the money in the world. As I stood on stage, looking out at the clapping audience, my eyes scanned the crowd again. And that's when I saw her mom standing in the back, her expression unreadable. She came. After the ceremony, people crowded around, congratulating me, asking questions about my project. Dad stood nearby, beaming with pride. I kept glancing toward the back of the room, trying to spot Mom again, but she seemed to have disappeared. When the crowd finally thinned, I turned to Dad. "Did you see Mom? She was here, but now I can't find her." Dad's face fell. "I didn't see her, honey. Are you sure?" "Positive. She was standing in the back." We looked around, but Mom was gone. My moment of triumph suddenly felt hollow. She had come, but she couldn't even stay long enough to say congratulations. Outside the building, as we were about to leave, I spotted her sitting alone on a bench, staring at nothing. "Dad, there she is," I whispered. Can you give us a minute?" Dad looked uncertain but nodded. "I'll wait here." I walked over to the bench, my trophy clutched tight in one hand, the check burning a hole in my pocket. "Mom." She looked up startled. "Lena." "You came," I said, not sure what else to say. "I did." "I won," I said, holding up the trophy. "First place." She nodded, her eyes flickering to the trophy, then back to my face. I saw. An awkward silence fell between us. I waited for her to say something, anything, but she just sat there. "I did it, Mom," I said finally, my voice stronger. I became somebody just like you wanted. Mom flinched, like my words had physically hurt her. Lena, What? I prompted when she didn't continue. I was wrong, she said quietly. I was scared for you. Science seemed like such a hard path. I didn't want you to struggle the way I did. You struggled. This was news to me. Mom had always seemed so confident, so sure of her path. Of course I did. Everyone does, she sighed, looking older suddenly. But that doesn't excuse what I did. Kicking you out it was unforgivable. I stood there, clutching my trophy, not sure what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive her immediately, to throw myself into her arms and go home. Another part was still angry, still hurt. Come home, Lena, Mom said, her voice breaking slightly. Please. I don't know if I can, I admitted. I don't know if things can go back to how they were. They won't, Mom said quickly. Things will be different, I promise. I'll support your science. I'll try to understand. I looked down at my trophy, thinking about everything that had happened since she kicked me out. I'd changed, grown up, learned to stand on my own 2 feet. I need time, I said finally. I can't just pretend this never happened. Mom nodded slowly, her eyes sad but understanding. Where will you go? Dad's taking me to dinner to celebrate. After that, back to Noah's, I guess, but I have options now. I patted my pocket where the check was. I won $10,000, Mom, and a scholarship. You did amazing, she said softly. I'm proud of you, Lena. I should have told you that more. Those words, the ones I'd wanted to hear for so long, finally came. But instead of filling me with joy, they just made me sad. Why did it take all this for her to say them? I have to go, I said. Dad's waiting. Mom stood up. Can I call you tomorrow? I nodded. Yeah, you can call. As I walked back to Dad, I felt like a weight had been lifted. Not everything was fixed. Maybe it never would be. But for the first time, Mom had seen me, really seen me for who I was. Everything okay? Dad asked when I reached him. Not yet, I said truthfully, but maybe someday. That night after dinner with Dad, I sat in Noah's guest room, staring at the check. $10,000. Enough to rent a small apartment, maybe. Enough to buy supplies for more projects. Enough to start building a future. I opened my notebook and wrote at the top of a new page, plans for becoming somebody. Then I crossed it out and wrote instead, I am somebody, here's what's next. Because I finally understood, I didn't need to become somebody. I already was. I just needed to believe it and keep moving forward, one step at a time.